And we are back. Welcome to my preview and predictions for Game Week 11 in La Liga. This game week comes after a Copa del Rey first round of matches for a lot of these La Liga teams. The Champions League teams were able to get a week off, but what that means is coming into this week there are going to be some extra things to talk about coming into each of these fixtures. As always, this is the first of two videos I'm going to be posting for you this morning. My Premier League preview and predictions for Game Week 10 will be posted in an hour's time, but before we get into this one, if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video, share it with a friend, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with notifications turned on, because not only do we have Premier League predictions coming out for you in an hour, but next week we have got Champions League, Europa League, and Europa Conference League for you once again. So plenty of stuff coming up for you over the course of the next 7 days. And of course, if you want to gain access to even more previews and predictions such as Bundesliga, Serie A, and the League Earn, hit the join button at the bottom of your screen right now to become a member. The first two of those leagues are already up and available for those members right now. But as for today, these are the fixtures we have got taking place in La Liga this weekend. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it with our opening fixture, which is tonight's fixture, which is a battle of the G's as Getafe take on Girona in our opening game. For Getafe, it was yet another away win for them last weekend. Actually, their third away win of the season, this time away to Athletic Club Bilbao. A good result for them. They then backed it up with an astonishing 11-0 victory in the Copa del Rey this week. For Girona, it was another crazy game for them, but unfortunately it was more dropped points at home, drawing 3-3 to Real Oviedo in a game that had 3 penalties and then a 97th minute equaliser from Oviedo. A ridiculous game. They then also won in the Copa del Rey, winning 3-2 in midweek. Incredibly, despite the scoreline, Getafe did actually change their entire starting 11 for that match in midweek, so all of their first-team players are fit and available for this one, although Neom remains suspended following his red card a few weeks ago. For Girona, no fresh concerns for them, but unfortunately still that incredibly long list of long-term injuries continues to plague them, probably why they remain in 20th place in the season as things stand. Last season, which makes this prediction even harder to call, is that the sides playing away from home won this fixture, i.e. Girona won 1-0 here, and Getafe won their fixture in Girona as well. Incredibly, that win for Girona last year was pretty much to the day nearly a year ago. So could be an interesting one coming into this, but given the fact that they have just been so poor so far this season, even though Getafe have only won one game so far at home this season, I've still got to make them the favourites for this match, considering how poor Girona have been overall. I'm going for a 3-1 victory to Getafe, but I'm going to say that with a little pinch of salt, because I think Girona could still produce the goods in this match. On to Saturday, and we start off Saturday with two sides that have had absolutely great weeks. For Villarreal, it was a 2-0 win at Valencia, which kept them in third place in La Liga, and they backed it up with a 6-0 win in midweek. For Vallecano, it's 3 league wins in a row without conceding for them, in a run that's seen them move all the way up to 7th place over the course of the last few weeks, and they also scored 6 in the Copa del Rey, winning 6-1 in midweek. So both sides are going to be full of confidence coming into this one. In terms of the teams coming into this, no fresh concerns for the home side. And for Vallecano, Espanyol could be out after playing only 1 minute last week and then not featuring at all in the midweek game. So realistically, both sides pretty fresh coming into this as well. I have to say it's a pretty mixed head-to-head record between these two sides as well. The last 6 meetings have been 1 home win, 1 draw, and 1 away win, respectively, each. It's ridiculous how close it has been between these two sides over the last few years. Ultimately, though, if I look at how these two sides have performed this season, I would probably make Villarreal the slight favourites. They're obviously in third place for a reason. I don't want to take anything away from how good Vallecano have been in the past few weeks, but I would still have Villarreal as slight favourites here. So I'm going for a 2-1 victory to Villarreal. Next up, we have Atletico Madrid taking on Sevilla. And to be honest, again, I do think this could end up being a very tough one to call. Atletico Madrid managed to get an impressive 2-0 win against Betis on Monday, and they had no Copa del Rey game, considering they are a Champions League side. For Sevilla, they lost for the second week running away to Real Sociedad, but then they bounced back with a 4-1 victory in the Copa as well, with a near enough completely changed side, that meaning coming into this, they are another side that has their full first team fresh and available for this one. I say that, it looks like they could be without Aguirre and Alexis Sanchez for this one though, as they did go off with injuries in that game against Sociedad last time out. For Atletico Madrid, their only real concern coming into this is Pablo Barrios, who is a doubt after going off early in the second half in that victory at Betis last weekend. The head-to-head record is very good from an Atletico Madrid perspective. They have won their last 4 competitive meetings between the two, which obviously includes the last 2 meetings on this ground as well. Given both teams' inconsistencies so far this season, though, I still think it's a tough one to call. I really do. We've said it enough times already this season. Atletico Madrid tend to turn up in the big games, but have laxed off in games like this where they are expected to win at home. So I'm not going to be overly aggressive in terms of the Atletico Madrid win. They should win this game. They are the clear favourites for this game. But I'm just going to be a little bit safe. I'm only going to go for 2-0. I think it could be way more if they really apply themselves. But I don't think Sevilla are going to get anything from this game. They have been struggling away from home this season. Next up, we have Real Sociedad, who are taking on Athletic Club Bilbao. And just to prove how close the La Liga table is at this it's not even early stage of the season anymore. We're at game week 11 and Sociedad are in 17th and Bilbao are in 9th, and there are still only 5 points between them in the table so far. It's so close in what is becoming a huge race in terms of trying to survive in La Liga so far this season. For Sociedad, their turnaround in form continued last week with victory over Sevilla and then another win in the Copa del Rey in midweek, which actually means they're now 4 games unbeaten in all competitions. So finally for Sociedad, they're starting to get things going back around in the right direction. For Bilbao, unfortunately for them, it was another really poor performance, which led to yet another defeat for them last week, this time at home to Getafe. But I guess you could argue there is one small positive in the fact that they didn't have to play in midweek at all, meaning their entire squad gets a full rest coming into this game, whereas for Sociedad, again, it was just their first teamers that got a rest, their reserves, of course, playing in their Copa match. In terms of the team news coming into this, for Sociedad, unfortunately for Herrera, it's a real rough start to his life as a Sociedad player. He is once again injured. He finally managed to make his first couple of appearances over the last couple of weeks, but then picked up another injury in the first half last week and is now set to miss the remaining games until the next international break. For Bilbao, their crisis almost just continues to grow worse and worse. Firstly, Lecue went off injured in the first half last week and then ended up getting sent off as a substitute after being injured. So he would have been suspended for this match anyway, but he is also injured. And of course, Inaki Williams is still injured from last week. And now Aymeric Laporte is a doubt for this match as well, with a fresh injury concern as well. It's just not going great in terms of fitness of players for Bilbao at the moment. And this is a tough ground for them to go to when you look at their horrendous record in the head-to-head between these two sides. Bilbao have not won on this ground since 2017. However, there have been a few draws over recent seasons, most recently last season, where it did end up finishing 0-0. To be honest, I do definitely think 0-0 is a possibility here. Bilbao just seem to really be struggling to score goals at the moment, but I look at the way that Sociedad have performed over the last couple of weeks, and I do think they've got enough in them to squeeze the result out here. So that is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go narrow victory for Real Sociedad, and I'm going to go for 1-0 to them. The final game on Saturday then sees our league leaders Real Madrid taking on, now in the relegation zone, Valencia. But again, just to highlight the gap in how close things are in La Liga at the moment, Valencia have 9 points from their opening 10 games, which means they are still only 5 points off Europe. That is how close it is. From 18th to 7th, there is just 5 points in La Liga as things stand, which is pretty mad considering we're over a quarter of the way into the season as things stand. That being said, though, coming into this one, I think we should all consider one side to be the overwhelming favourite here, and that is the home side, who, of course, as predicted, did beat Barcelona in the Clásico last week, and if it wasn't for Mbappe missing his penalty, it would have been a perfect prediction from myself last time out. What that result does mean, though, is it is now 5 wins in a row for Real Madrid in all competitions, and they've still won all but that one game against Atletico Madrid so far this season. For Valencia, their 2-0 defeat at home to Villarreal means they're actually now 5 games in a row without a win in La Liga. 3 of those have been losses, but then they did manage to get a nice, lovely 5-0 win in the Copa del Rey in midweek. In terms of the teams, the only actual concern for Real Madrid is their substitute goalkeeper, Lunin, who got sent off in the melee at the end of the Clásico. More on that when we get to the Barcelona team news later on in this video. For Valencia, no fresh concerns for them, but given how poor they've been in the league recently and how well their reserve players did in midweek, we could see a couple of players given an opportunity in this fixture, especially when you consider essentially this is a free hit for them. They're not expected to get a result at Real Madrid. So if there's ever a time to experiment with a couple of things, do it in this game and see what you can get out of it. That being said, they did produce a shock victory on this ground last season, winning 2-1 at the Bernabeu. So it's certainly not out of the question that Valencia could turn them over here. But before that, Real Madrid had won the previous 7 meetings on this ground. With a massive Champions League game at Anfield coming up this week, there is a potential chance that Real Madrid won't fully have all eyes on the ball here. But on the current form of these two sides, Real Madrid should still be the clear favourites. And I still think Xabi Alonso will field his strongest available side for this match. I'm going for a 3-0 victory to Real Madrid. On to Sunday now, and we start off Sunday with Levante taking on Celta Vigo, where we have to start with the away team because they finally did it after 7 draws in La Liga. Celta Vigo finally got their first win of the La Liga season. It was a decent one as well, getting a 3-2 away win at Osasuna. They then backed that up with a 2-0 win in the Copa del Rey last night, which now means it's 6 games unbeaten for Celta Vigo. It's incredible how you can sort of change that turn of phrase around once that side gets the win. Last week, there were 5 games without a win. Now, they're 6 games unbeaten. Incredible how things can turn around like that when you look at the results in the right way. As for Levante, it was a 1-1 draw at Mallorca for them last week, which, to be fair, I don't think is the worst result in the world, but it does mean that they have just 1 win in 5 for them in La Liga, and still without a win at home, which is crucial coming into this one here. They also played in the Copa del Rey last night, winning 4-3, because of course they did. It's Levante, all of their games seem to be as chaotic as that. In terms of the team news, as expected, both teams did change basically their entire lineup for their respective matches last night, and what I can tell you is that there are no fresh concerns coming out of that match, and I can't find any from the previous games at the weekend as well. So as far as I can tell, both sides coming into this with pretty much fully the same squads they had available to them last week. The last time these two sides met was back in 2021. On that occasion, it was a 2-0 win for Celta Vigo. To be honest, I can't say with full confidence that that is the sort of scoreline we're going to see here. I think Levante are a slightly stronger side than they were a few years back. And I don't think Celta Vigo have been performing as well as you would expect from them so far this season. However, with their victory last week, the momentum is starting to turn for them, and I've given it all of these opportunities where I've gone for 1-1 and I've gone for 1-1 and I've gone for 1-1, but actually my streak of predicting Celta Vigo to finish in a game 1-1 ends here, because I actually think they are going to go to Levante and get another result here. I'm going for a 2-1 victory to Celta Vigo. I think it'll be close though. It could end up being 3-2 or 4-3 or anything like that. You never know with Levante, but I do think at the end of it, Celta Vigo will be the side that comes out on top. Now for my absolute least favourite side to predict in this division, which is the eternally inconsistent Alaves, and they're going into this game against Espanyol this weekend after defeat to Vallecano last time out. But then, of course, they played Copa del Rey last night and they won 7-0. So who knows? Maybe they could pick some of those players for this one and it could make a difference. Although, again, the gap between the top division sides and the lower division sides in La Liga is very, very large, which is why you see such heavy scorelines from the La Liga side when they play against lower division teams. For Espanyol, it's back-to-back wins for them without conceding in La Liga. They beat Elche last week, and they were only able to back that up with a 2-1 victory in the Copa del Rey last night. But again, in terms of the team news, that means that both sides did change their entire lineups again last night, which means that, again, both sides are pretty much fully fresh first teams coming into this one. Couldn't see any concerns coming out of the games last weekend. No fresh concerns tonight, so we're all good to go for this one. Last season, Espanyol won both home and away, and it was a 1-0 scoreline for them on this ground. To be honest with you, I do think that is a very, very impossible scoreline for this one coming into it as well. And as I've mentioned multiple times already this season when it comes to Espanyol, they are a side that tends to go on these runs where they win a bunch of games, then they don't win a bunch of games, then they win a bunch of games. So considering that they've won back-to-back games in the league without conceding, made it 3 wins in a row in the Cup, and given how inconsistent Alaves have been, I've got to make Espanyol the favourites in this match. I do think that all 3 scorelines are possible, because as I said at the start of this prediction, Alaves are the most inconsistent side for me so far this season. If they turn up, they can produce the result. But I think the most likely scenario right now is Espanyol take it. So I'm going for a 1-0 win to Espanyol. Now to Barcelona, who will be taking on Elche in their match this weekend. Both sides on the end of defeats last time out. Barcelona, of course, in the Clásico, losing 2-1. Elche, after their incredible unbeaten start to the season, have now lost back-to-back away games. Last time out, of course, it was that 1-0 defeat to Espanyol that we've just mentioned. And unfortunately for them, travelling now to the Nou Camp, they are staring down the barrel of 3 back-to-back away defeats, which, to be honest, wouldn't be too much of a surprise going into this game against Barcelona. What I would say, though, is that the team news coming into this one is quite worrying if you are a Barcelona fan. Firstly, they were going to be without Pedri anyway, following his red card in that melee at the end of the Real Madrid match. But unfortunately, things got even worse for him as he's now picked up a hamstring injury. So not only was he going to be suspended for this match, but even once that suspension has concluded, he is going to be out for 8 weeks. And when you consider they're still missing the likes of Gavi, they're still missing the likes of Rafinha, there are still doubts over the likes of Dani Olmo and their goalkeepers, it's really not a good spot for Barcelona at the moment, and they're going to need to start picking up results soon, because that gap to Real Madrid has gone out to 5 points already after their defeat last week. For Elche, the only real concern for them is actually on loan Barcelona player Hector Fort, who is a doubt to face his parent club as things stand. There are no rules like there are in England where you can't face your parent club. In La Liga, you can actually face your parent club. But as things stand, Hector Fort is a doubt for this one coming into this. In terms of the head-to-head record, I don't think many of you are going to be too surprised that Barcelona have actually won the last 10 meetings between these two, whether that's been home or away. But despite their growing issues, I do expect them to do so again here. That being said, Elche are a very strong side defensively, and I do think they are going to put up one hell of a fight here. Could they produce a 0-0? We shall see, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going for a 2-0 win to Barcelona. The final game on Sunday then sees Real Betis taking on Mallorca. Yet another tough away game at the start of Mallorca's season. Like, you line up the teams they've played away from home already this season, it's absolutely staggering. It'll be interesting to see how they perform in the second half of the season when they have to play all of those teams back at home. Unfortunately for both of these sides, though, it was disappointment for them last weekend. For Betis, it was that 2-0 home defeat to Atletico Madrid, but they did score 7 in the Copa del Rey last night. For Mallorca, they could only manage a 1-1 draw at home to newly promoted Levante. However, they also won in the Copa del Rey last night. Coming into this, in my opinion, it is pretty clear that Real Betis should be considered the favourites for this match, considering how poor Mallorca have been away from home so far this season. Granted, they've played all the top teams away from home so far this season. But in terms of the team news, it is not good news for Real Betis' new left-back, Junior Firpo. He's picked up a hamstring injury, which should see him out until the new year. But Ricardo Rodriguez had a good night last night, scoring at least, I think it was 1 or 2 in the Copa del Rey, and will be expected to continue at left-back coming into this one. For Mallorca, no fresh concerns for them. However, Miraki, their top scorer, is a doubt for this match because he has picked up an illness which saw him miss last night's game, and he is expected to miss this one as well. And if they don't have him available, I do struggle to see how they're going to score in this match. Interestingly, though, in the last 3 meetings between these two sides, they have been won by the side playing away. So that means that Mallorca did win here 2-1 last season, with Betis winning the last 2 games away from home at Mallorca. And Betis have won all of the other 6 of their last 7 meetings. So Real Betis, for me, overwhelming favourites. I expect that trend to continue in this one, and I'm going for a 3-1 victory to Real Betis. And then finally, we have one game taking place on Monday night, and that game sees Real Oviedo taking on Osasuna. Oviedo got what I would say is a fairly good result last week, getting that 3-3 draw against Girona. Of course, it did take that 97th minute equaliser to produce the 3-3 draw. But hey, I did say they were going to lose that match. They managed to hold on to the draw, which means they still sit 19th in La Liga as things stand. That being said, though, they were the only top flight side in the Copa del Rey to lose this week. We've spoken about the amount of teams that have won by 6 goals or 7 goals, or Getafe winning 11-0. The top sides, or should I say the top division sides, were winning all of their matches in the Copa del Rey fairly comfortably, but Oviedo did end up losing 4-2 to Arunes, or Arunce, last night, or a couple of nights ago. For Osasuna, their result in La Liga last week saw them lose their unbeaten streak at home so far this season, going down 3-2 to Celta Vigo. But to sort of further prove my point regarding Copa del Rey, they then won 5-0 in their match this week as well. So for me, realistically, you'd probably say Osasuna are the ever so slight favourites coming into this one, but they have had 3 consecutive defeats in La Liga coming into this weekend. In terms of the team news, I actually couldn't find any fresh injury or suspension concerns for either side from either of their matches over the course of the last 7 days. So the only real concerns for either coming into this is their poor run of form in the league over the course of the last couple of months. The last time these two sides met, it was way back in 2018, 2019, with all 4 fixtures then going in favour of the side playing at home. But realistically, we can't read too much into that over, we're now talking the end of 2025. We're talking a good 6 or 7 years since these two sides last met. To be honest with you, I don't think there is an outright favourite. As I said, you'd say Osasuna are slight favourites purely because of their stature as things stand. But given their poor record away from home, given the fact they've not won any games or lost all 3 of their last games in La Liga, I can't say with any confidence they're going to get the result here. But at the same time, I don't fancy Oviedo to get the result here either. I stand by what I said last week. They don't strike me as a side that is capable to compete at this level. We'll see if I'm proven wrong this time around, but I'm going straight down the middle for my only draw of today's video, which is a 1-1 draw between Oviedo and Osasuna. Overall, I do think this is a fairly decent week in La Liga. I think there are a few potential slip-ups that could occur over the course of these matches. But all in all, I do think this is a fairly good week for predictions. Before I leave you, let's see what you guys have been saying over on the community page regarding these 10 matches. And you have gone for the following. Most of you think Getafe are going to beat Girona. Even more of you think Villarreal are going to beat Vallecano. Basically, everyone thinks Atletico are going to beat Sevilla. Pretty close in terms of your predictions between Sociedad and Bilbao, but most of you agree with me, or the majority agree with me, that Sociedad will come out on top. Basically, everyone thinks Real Madrid beat Valencia. Most of you think Celta Vigo are going to beat Levante, but again, that's a pretty close one there. Same story with Alaves and Espanyol, with the majority going for Espanyol, but still pretty close on all 3 fronts. Basically, everyone thinks Barcelona are going to beat Elche. Basically, everyone thinks Betis are going to beat Mallorca. And the majority have gone for Osasuna to win away to Oviedo, which I think is a completely valid prediction from you guys. As always, let me know down in the comment section all of your thoughts regarding all of these fixtures. Don't forget to check out Premier League predictions that will be coming out for you in an hour's time. And over the course of the next few days, I will be posting my community polls for the Champions League, Europa League, and Europa Conference League. So a final, thank you very much for watching once again. I'll pop my actual predictions on the screen before we leave. And again, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in a little while.